Part 22. A Middle School Cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 211. Chapter 211 The confrontation between the sister controller and the wife controller and the hidden branch line. So, you lost this war, the leader of the darkened slime elite. Facing the furious Ogata Eiji, Takahashi Makoto had a smile of triumph on his face. You bastard, Ogata Eiji grabbed the collar of his white coat. Takahashi Makoto was caught off guard and pulled to a very close distance by Ogata Eiji. According to literature and art, Ogata Eiji's the stinky face was less than 10 centimeters away from Takahashi Makoto's face wearing an eye patch. Oh, you are so brave. How dare you do such an unforgivable act of committing seppuku? Seeing Ogata Eiji's face distorted due to turning on the dark rage, Takahashi Makoto curled his lips in disdain, gently opened Ogata Eiji's hands, and pulled the collar of his white coat. You, a slime with only 20 combat power, actually provoked the big devil with millions of blood out of anger. If you want to commit suicide, please just jump off the building and commit seppuku or whatever. Don't get in the way here and delay my great cause of conquering the world. Taking a deep breath, Ogata Eiji sat on the sofa with an angry look on his face. He tried hard to calm down his inner irritation, took out his lighter and lit a cigarette, but his eyes never left Makoto Takahashi. Takahashi Makoto, on the other hand, poured himself a glass of wine with a smile on his face, leaned on the sofa, squinted his right eye, and sipped the wine in the glass. Faced with Ogata Eiji's murderous eyes, he completely chose ignore it. Takahashi Makoto, what are your plans? His tone was full of helplessness. Ogata Eiji was the first to break the silence. You have to know that Rina is a popular idol now. So what about popular idols? That's the witch who signed a contract with me, the Phoenix Academy. Makoto Takahashi interrupted Ogata Eiji unceremoniously, drank the wine in one gulp, and looked at Ogata provocatively. Eiji, although you are still far behind as a qualified girl controller, you dare to clear the copy of Phoenix Academy Fierce Demon Lord by yourself. Your courage and awareness are worthy of praise. However, the gap in force and you are so naive for not seeing through the heart of the witch. To put it simply, slime, you are just a fool. Takahashi Makoto, Ogata Eiji's voice suddenly raised an octave. This kind of absolute control of the vocal range is indeed quite ferocious. Compared to a certain Shinigami elementary school student who also has this talent, can he be said to be a music producer? Hey, leader of slimes, have you forgotten something? Makoto Takahashi stood up and took out a small book from the drawer, flashing it in front of Eiji Ogata. This is from the contract. Although I can understand your current mentality of betraying your family and losing your family, I won't sympathize with you. It's useless even if you wallow in cuteness. Let's push the timeline forward a little and go back to that night, the night when Makoto Takahashi won the Eastern Master. Makoto Takahashi did not continue to interact with Sebastian, but left time to several other cartoonists on the cartoonist side. He and Rina were the first to withdraw from the scene. Of course, before leaving, he handed over his CEO's sister to the shy-looking Landai. At the same time, he took a photo of the yellow-haired glasses gentleman and the siren girl at a wrong angle and sent it to the violent girl. Miss Kang Shuhong naturally has a loyal dog and little girl. Protected by sea otters. As for Ogata Slime's little spy, he was handed over to the silver-haired guy with a hard mouth and a soft heart. Although the silver-haired guy looked unhappy, as Yinsang said, all silver-haired people are good people. Which, have you seen this? This is the world we are about to conquer. Standing on the balcony, looking at the night sky dotted with lights, Makoto Takahashi sighed. This world has become depraved because of ignorant humans, because of wanton human beings have become corrupt due to their reckless behavior. Destroying the world and then creating the world will be the goal that I, the Phoenix Academy, will strive for throughout my life. So, Makoto-kun. Rina looked at Makoto Takahashi helplessly. It was finally possible to have some alone time together. I didn't ask for sweet words, but just wanted normal communication. Is that okay? Sorry, I lost my way forward in the ideal world. Makoto Takahashi suddenly walked up to Rina, put his face close to Rina, and stared at Rina seriously with his right eye narrowed. For Takahashi Makoto's sudden move, Rina's heartbeat accelerated a little. Especially when she saw Makoto Takahashi's face getting closer, the heat coming from her face made Rina feel a little flustered. Although the two had registered their marriage, due to their professional issues, the two of them spent less time together and more time away from each other. Now it is rare for them to be alone together. At this moment, Rina was worried and expecting, and she slowly closed her eyes. So in order to rule the world with me, practice is necessary. What Rina imagined did not happen. There was no kissing or anything like that. Instead, what she heard was Makoto Takahashi's delusional reasoning as he switched modes, but what about practice? There is no need to work so hard. Your face is pale, your eyes are bloody, and your body is shaking, all this shows that you haven't had a good rest recently. And your fingers are crossed uneasily because you haven't had a good rest. Feeling uneasy. By the way, at this time, shouldn't we do something that makes us happy? Why did you suddenly switch from the middle 2 mode to the lucky mode? This is not the time. She opened her eyes and looked at Makoto Takahashi with his hands clasped in front of his mouth. He kept pacing and talking incessantly. Rina lowered her head with a look of disappointment and whispered. He complained, Chankun is really. Takahashi Makoto suddenly stopped and could not speak any words, because Rina suddenly launched a surprise attack and hugged Takahashi Makoto tightly from behind. At this time, two actually used my arms to hug and kill. Makoto Takahashi suddenly stuttered and his body became a little stiff. No, you are indeed the witch Rina. You. Who, Makoto-kun? Sensing Takahashi Makoto's nervousness, Rina suddenly laughed. The look of resentment before was replaced by a full smile. Standing on tiptoes slightly, he blew hot air into Takahashi Makoto's ear. I didn't expect Makoto-kun to be nervous too. Nervous? Me? What are you talking about? Are you kidding? Makoto Takahashi, who switched back to the middle school mode, pulled Rina's hands away, turned around and hugged Rina, and turned on the education mode towards Rina with a serious look on his face. I had already noticed your intention to attack before. In order to suppress the counter-attack of the true energy in my body, I was easily attacked by you. Huh. If I hadn't suppressed the warrior's instinctive reaction, you would have been lying on the ground now. Got it? So next time don't. There is no chance to continue speaking, because Takahashi Makoto's mouth has been blocked. It's me. That's right. The beautiful woman Rina tried to imitate me before. The visual inspection plan failed. Please ask the association for next instructions. Rina grabbed the phone and threw it aside. Seeing Rina's unexpected move, Takahashi-chen was a little dazed, and then a proud smile appeared on his face, which Rina, although I am very grateful for your demon-repairing behavior, but if you want to become the ferocious wagtail named Phoenix Academy, this level is not enough. I think. To maximize combat effectiveness and release full-screen attack moves, just feathering is not enough. You also need to use the quick attack magic super fusion. Rina didn't speak, she held Takahashi Makoto tightly with both hands, and looked at Takahashi Makoto with a blushing face. The task of mending demons continued. Because of Rina's mental attack, Takahashi Makoto's combat effectiveness was sharply reduced. Before that, there is something that we must agree on first. Makoto Takahashi once again interrupted the magic repairing act and looked at Rina with a serious look on his face. Although I won the cheating title of Oriental Cult Master tonight, the fierce combat power of the Phoenix Academy is actually as high as several million. And I have always adhered to the principle of equality between men and women, so I am on top for the first half of the night, and you are on the bottom for the second half of the night. Seeing the serious look on Makoto Takahashi's face, Rina suddenly had the urge to use anti-wolf throw. The atmosphere that I had worked so hard to create with my bold behavior of abandoning the restraint of a girl before was completely burned by the serious-faced guy in front of me. Since this is Stein's, Gates' choice, then. Makoto Takahashi suddenly hugged the witch like a princess, then, let the battle begin. As for the intensity of the battle and the final outcome, look at Eiji Ogata, who has turned on the murderous maniac mode with a distorted face. Please make up your own mind. Okay, the memory killing is over, the battle process continues, the duel between the sister control and the wife control. For Takahashi Makoto, Ogata Eiji's inner disgust accounts for 90%. Let's not talk about the natural hostility between sister controllers and wife controllers. As a music producer, Ogata Eiji, who has been in the entertainment industry for many years, knows very well that the popular idol suddenly announced the consequences of the love affair, especially the relationship between Makoto Takahashi and Rina are not just a love affair, but a marriage. Once this kind of thing is known and reported by the media, it will definitely have a major impact on Rina's career. Takahashi Makoto, since it is Rina's choice, I will not interfere. After a long silence, did Ogata Eiji finally give in? No, according to the 7th sense prediction mastered by Takahashi Makoto, the Ogata slime leader is planning a new round of attack. But the things between you cannot be known to others, especially, you have to know, as a popular idol, if these things are announced now, Rina's acting career will be hit. Makoto Takahashi also understood what Eiji Ogata said, but hearing the tone of Eiji Ogata's words, Makoto Takahashi still felt unhappy, very unhappy. And don't forget, even if you are a popular cartoonist now, you still cannot do without the support of readers. Eiji Ogata looked at the disdainful look on Makoto Takahashi's face, sighed helplessly, and changed his persuasion mode. Fans of cartoonists and fans of popular idols fight each other. I think you don't want to see this kind of thing. No matter who wins in the end, both of you will be affected in the end. Ogata slime, isn't it good to be a slime? Makoto Takahashi said helplessly. I have said it many times before, a slime that is arrogant is not a good slime. Ah. Humph. Takahashi Makoto, I said what I should say. Ogata Eiji stood up with a gloomy look, turned around and was about to leave. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped and said in a resentful tone, anyway, just take care of yourself. Hey, Ogata slime. Looking at Ogata Eiji walking to the door, Takahashi Makoto put down his glass and mocked with a smile on his face, you are really a coward. He did not look back at Makoto Takahashi, because Eiji Ogata was worried that if he looked back, he would not be able to help but slap Takahashi Makoto. Rebels or opponents, it doesn't matter. Takahashi Makoto slowly drew out his magic sword and muttered to himself with anticipation, disharmonious existences, just completely eliminate them. Because I have signed a contract with the witch, I am no longer afraid. In order to protect the contract object, I, Fengguangai Yuan Kuma. Even if I kill everyone in the world, it doesn't matter. Ahem, sorry for the late update. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do SD Mao. Chapter 212. Although during the duel, the wife control completely defeated the sister control. But judging from the result, because the duel failed, the angry Ogata Eiji took Rina away in anger. Although Makoto Takahashi's consciousness is very good, what Eiji Ogata is really worried about is that someone's too ferocious fighting power at night will cause the achievement of one shot into the soul to appear prematurely. As for things like unfinished studies, preparations for concerts, etc. Although the schedule is so arranged, Makoto Takahashi knows very well that all these are just excuses made up by Eiji Ogata. Before I start drawing comics. Makoto Takahashi did not hand over the drawings to his assistants as usual, but squinted his right eye and glanced coldly at everyone, his tone full of strong murderous intent and anger. The first thing to do is, kill the undercover agent arranged by the slime leader to ashes. What happened between Makoto Takahashi and Rina is definitely a hidden branch that is difficult for ordinary people to detect. But judging from Ogata Eiji's quick response to the attack, Takahashi Makoto has every reason to believe that there is indeed a spy around him. Among those who may have knowledge, several cartoonists on the cartoonist side were controlled by Sebastian and stayed in the live broadcast hall to record the program, including the former undercover Little Face. So Takahashi Makoto turned the object of suspicion to a group of hard-working assistants. "It's time, please don't waste your time on these things," Ding Ding complained helplessly, looking at the gloomy-looking Makoto Takahashi, who was unmoved and spread his hands. Okay, Chen. Continue. Dudu. Teacher Phoenix Academy said this is unacceptable. Mayuri held the sketch and shook it in front of Makoto Takahashi's eyes, because there is still a lot of work to do. If the work cannot be completed on time, Mr. Yoshida will be angry. Yo. After looking up for a moment, Ueno Aoi and Shizuka River remained silent and continued to draw comics. Humph. You are so dedicated to your job at this time, do you want to distract me by changing the subject? But this old-fashioned method is too sweet. Looking at the assistants entering work mode, they couldn't help but, after being willing to ignore him, Takahashi Makoto sneered and his expression became a little ferocious. "Remember, you forced me to do this." Switch to the mode of Professor Lightman, an expert in micro-expression research. "Hey, Chen, I'm here to get the manga manuscript." At this moment, Yoshida walked in with a smile on his face. What greeted Yoshida was the sympathetic eyes of his assistant and the suspicious eyes of Makoto Takahashi. The assistant's eyes looked better, but looking at Makoto Takahashi's gloomy look, Yoshida suddenly felt that something was wrong, and asked with a concerned look on his face, what happened?" "Well, I see, I didn't think carefully before." Makoto Takahashi, holding his chin, focused all his attention on Yoshida, nodding to himself thoughtfully. "My familiar cat is the editor's side. Although the representatives are from different camps from the slime side, they are also enemies of the association, so they may also use a joint strategy to fight. In order to prevent me from finding out about the undercover, I specially chose to appear at this time, but although I don't know when it happened, the fact that the two parties joined forces has been proven." "I don't understand what you are talking about at all." "Oh, by the way, Chen, this is the letter that Sebastian asked me to forward to you." Makoto Takahashi is in this state every day, so Yoshida has become accustomed to it and puts the things in his bag. He handed the letter to Makoto Takahashi, then picked up the comic manuscript on the table, walked to the edge of the sofa and sat down. While flipping through the comics, he complained to Makoto Takahashi, "Sabas is not the omnipotent person who claims to be Chen. Housekeeper. Why do I need to do this chore of delivering letters? Letter? Huh. This is no ordinary letter. That's right, this is the first-hand news that Sebastian risked his life to deliver from the slime side." Takahashi obtained the key props from the NPC. Chen, his face became more gloomy, and placed Ding Chun at the door of the bedroom. "Ding Chun, now I want to start deciphering the code. As the guardian of the last barrier, you are allowed to turn on the violent mode at any time, especially when facing peeping toms. My beloved cat. Hey, what's up with the peeping tom attribute? I have never had this hidden attribute, and I will never awaken it. Who would want to read that kind of inexplicable letter?" Yoshida said unhappily. He curled his lips and muttered in a low voice, "No wonder Sebastian didn't stop me when I opened the letter before. It turns out those things were secret codes. I thought Sebastian had taken it by mistake, but the content was a bunch of strange words and symbols. Wait, since you have read the letter, why can you still confidently say that you are not a voyeur? Mr. Yoshida, where is your moral integrity? Although Makoto Takahashi had already entered the bedroom and didn't hear it, the assistant who was painting looked at Yoshida with a black look on his face. At this moment, the assistant's soul resonated. If Chen knew about it, Mr. Yoshida, you would definitely be dead. Although he really wanted to know the content of the letter, Yoshida decided to finish the work first. Speaking of Yoshida's job, of course he is reviewing comics. Although the previous rhythm of serializing 3 monster comics at the same time has been restored, Yoshida is a little uncomfortable. Because of the popularity of Touhou, the number of cute and beautiful monsters in many submitted comics has increased dramatically within a period of time, while the number of handsome and stylish monsters has continued to decrease. Yoshida, who was the team leader before, had been gradually brainwashed by the characters in Touhou when reviewing comics, and had already had the idea that monsters are all cute, so now suddenly seeing 3 monster comics, he suddenly had an indescribable sense of disobedience in his heart. Counting the comic Touhou, the 4 monster comics have given readers 4 different impressions. Unlike the previous 3 monster comics, most of the monsters in Touhou appear as women, which well implements the way of shamelessness and cuteness, making many readers like Yoshida have the same idea as monsters can be so cute or how can monsters be so shameless. In addition, the content of the 3 comics that Makoto Takahashi resumed serialization basically all adhered to the line of love and peace, deliberately reducing a lot of fighting scenes and increasing the appearance of daily plots, so not to mention many readers, even Yoshida had an illusion, gradually forgetting the nature of monsters killing, and immersed in the false world where monsters and humans live in harmony. However, as an editor, Yoshida still vaguely felt that there was something wrong, but he couldn't say it for a while, so he had to read the comics patiently. Before the appearance of Touhou, Inuyasha was serialized to the appearance of the 7 people. The 7 people standing in the Naraku camp were completely defeated before. Just by appearing, they almost wiped out the protagonist's side of Inuyasha. Although the story of the half-demon Neonur was inserted later, Yoshida knew that the 7 people were not eliminated. The subsequent content was undoubtedly the battle between Inuyasha and the 7 people. As the existence of the protagonist, he has the aura of immortality to defeat the enemy. Not only is he immortal as the protagonist, he can also enhance the combat effectiveness of his teammates. Even those who were previously subordinate to the protagonist, as long as they do not die, will become a major force on the protagonist's side. For example, Lord Shimaru in the comics. Although Lord Shimaru had always been in a hostile relationship with Inuyasha because of the legacy of Inu no Taisho, Tesuga, but with the subsequent calculations of Naraku, the relationship between Shimaru and Naraku gradually became sparse, and they changed from the original neutral camp to the hostile camp. Originally, Yoshida thought that this episode of Inuyasha would start with the content of Inuyasha's side fighting against the 7 people, but watching Inuyasha and his party spend the night in the mountains in the comics, Inuyasha was born because of the arrival of the new moon, and the side effect of the half-demon bloodline was born, and Inuyasha became a black-haired human. Just by reading the beginning, Yoshida roughly guessed that the subsequent content is probably another daily story, and it has basically nothing to do with the villain Naraku. After all, Inuyasha, the main fighting force of the protagonist, has now become a human, and the fighting power of the protagonist has been greatly reduced. Not to mention fighting against the big villain behind the scenes, Naraku. If the 7 people suddenly appear now, it is possible to wipe out the protagonist. Roughly guessing the content of this episode, Yoshida sighed helplessly, put the comic manuscript of Inuyasha aside, and prepared to change to another comic. Because according to Makoto Takahashi's usual habits, there are generally not too many fighting contents in daily plots. Although the editor's job is to go through all the comic manuscripts, as an editor, point out the flaws of the comic manuscripts, and let the cartoonist make appropriate modifications. But out of trust in Makoto Takahashi, Yoshida completely believes that Makoto Takahashi can grasp the rhythm of daily plots. If the main content is better, Yoshida can provide some suggestions on the appearance and end of the characters, but Yoshida cannot provide many suggestions on the daily content of the comics, so at this time, let Makoto Takahashi play freely. My beloved cat, giving up halfway is not your style. Just as Yoshida reached out to take the comic manuscript of Yuo and Tora, suddenly a cold light flashed, and the real sword named the Demon Sword by Takahashi Makoto stopped at the edge of Yoshida's fingers with a hair's breadth of distance. It is shameful to waste food. This is a crime punishable by seppuku. My cat, you are ready to die for just flipping through the comics. Hey! Takahashi Makoto, do you know that it was very dangerous just now? This is a real sword. My finger was almost cut off. Yoshida looked at the sword marks on the table, stood up with lingering fear, took several steps back, leaned against the wall, and complained palely, "Sorry, I'm very sorry, I just slipped and didn't hold the comic manuscript firmly. Of course I will read the comic manuscript you worked so hard to complete. So is it okay? Stop pointing your sword at me. Hey, 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 this is a real sword. It will cost someone's life. Tisk. My cat, I didn't expect you to be so timid." Takahashi Makoto waved the sword in his hand with some disdain, "But in this case, the spy shouldn't be you." "Spy? What are you talking about?" Yoshida, who was completely unaware of the situation, looked at Takahashi Makoto with a puzzled look and asked carefully, "Spy means? Are the previous speculations wrong? The slime side has not joined forces with the organization." Makoto Takahashi put the magic sword back into its scabbard and walked back to his room with a puzzled look on his face, muttering in a low voice, "Pass this test can eliminate the suspicion of my familiar cat. It seems that if you want to know the result, you still have to decipher Sabas-chan's code. Alas! I feel like I've suffered an unnecessary disaster." After watching Makoto Takahashi enter the room, Yoshida sighed and without any hesitation, picked up the manga manuscript of Inuyasha, sat on the sofa for a while, and continued to read. That guy Aiken, it's true. Obviously, he didn't care so much about the completed comic manuscript before, but today he is so abnormal. Maybe it's because of Rina-chan's departure, right? Ueno Aoi, who witnessed everything that happened, put down the brush, her tone full of envy and jealousy. After all, the content of this sentence, well, Mr. Yoshida, you can read it for yourself. Alas, when will I be able to be like Rina-chan? Did I miss something before? After seeing Ueno Aoi sighing, he continued to enter the work mode without answering himself. Yoshida curiously started reading this chapter of Inuyasha again, trying to find out the only one. The truth. Well, I'm sorry to say, my computer crashed last night and I just fixed it today. This is an update from yesterday, and there is another update tonight that is from today. I'm very sorry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 213. Whenever the recent issues of Shonen Jump are released, many readers can't help but wail after flipping through a few pages. Although in the previous talk show, the cartoonist named Phoenix Institute Jishin has already said that the Touhou manga will no longer be serialized in the Shonen Jump magazine that will be released later, but this still cannot dissuade readers. Hope in my heart. Because we have hope, we are more likely to despair. For a month in a row, there were no Touhou comics signed by Phoenix in Kairuma and others. There were only a large number of fan short stories. This also disappointed many readers. They called the editorial department to ask questions, hoping to get a satisfactory answer. Reply: for example, Phoenix Academy Kuma and others are preparing new comics related to Touhou. But the results obtained made many fans of the East burst into tears. The editorial department not only confirmed the fact that Tuhao will no longer be serialized, but also launched a brutal double strike. Any fan short stories about Tuhao in the future will not appear in Shonen Jump. According to rumors, the person who asked Shonen Jump to make this decision was the manga artist Hohoin Kuma. After this news broke, many readers had strong doubts. Because in the interview show before, the cartoonist vowed to encourage everyone to create fan works. Why is he taking the completely opposite action now? Many readers are questioning whether the reason for releasing this news is because Young Jump intends to deliberately expose the murderer of the Phoenix Academy and take the blame. The reason why I do this is because many people's actions blaspheme their love for the East. What I hope is that everyone loves from the heart, likes from the soul, and creates fan fiction with dreams and hopes. However, many people, especially many cartoonists, look at the popularity of Tuhao and plan to take advantage of the opportunity to fish in troubled waters and create fan fiction that is full of copper odor. There is no sign of heartfelt like and love at all, let alone my own unique opinion. Greed is indeed the original sin. Although mankind develops because of greed, it will eventually be destroyed because of greed. This paragraph was conveyed word by word to the editor-in-chief by editor Yoshida after receiving instructions from Takahashi Makoto. The editor-in-chief also put this paragraph on the cover of Shonen Jump very effectively, which took 4 issues and 1 month. Of course, although the last sentence was very reasonable, it was unceremoniously deleted by the editor because it was a bit out of place. This approach also divides the readership into 2 camps. On one side, they ridiculed the cartoonist Xiao Zhenjuzhen. Because he was greedy for the money-making ability of Tuhao, he regretted encouraging readers to create fan fiction. He wanted to completely monopolize everything related to Tuhao. It was really shameless and morally corrupt, while the other side of the readers, it is to express support. After all, in previous interview shows, several cartoonists on the cartoonist side have repeatedly emphasized that the entire Tuhao is an idea provided by cartoonist Shoinjima. Rather than finishing this comic together, it would be better to say that all members become the fierce assistants of the Phoenix Academy, since the original author said so, then naturally we must respect the original author's meaning. What's more, the cartoonist Shoin Kuma is the cartoonist who serialized 3 comics at the same time. Many readers who support Phoenix Academy are worried that because of this incident, Phoenix Academy will be angry and put all monster comics into suspension. That's really a shame. As the focus of the incident, Makoto Takahashi is indifferent to right and wrong and just stays at home drawing comics. Speaking of which, Chen, aren't you worried? Yoshida is a little confused about the noisy readers. Thinking back to the past, Aiken Mumenji's side, because of a similar incident in PCP, the good gay duo's side was silent for a long time. Although Yoshida already knew that such a mere quarrel was it is unlikely to affect Makoto Takahashi, but is it really okay to be so heartless? Since human beings are born, whether they choose to become His Majesty the Demon King who destroys the world, whether they choose to be a righteous partner who saves all mankind, whether they live a lonely life with infatuated unrequited love, whether they build a disharmonious crystal palace and be destroyed by a hatchet or a ship, these are all. It is the path you choose. God created humans, but He will not interfere with and control the development of humans. My beloved cat, don't forget that from the day you become a beloved cat, you have broken away from the category of mortal humans. Don't imagine yourself to be a mere mortal. Hey, I'm not human anymore. I know, Yoshida said it was a headache for Makoto Takahashi's remarks. Although I use metaphors to explain, but can you not laugh at yourself every time? Seeing Makoto Takahashi's expression of I haven't finished speaking yet, Yoshida had no choice but to try to divert Makoto Takahashi's attention in order not to delay his work. Chen, well, Sebastian gave it to you. Have you finished deciphering the code? There are still some key parts that have not been completed. Although the general situation should be understood, about. Makoto Takahashi suddenly stopped and looked at Yoshida with a puzzled face. Wait, my dependent cat, are you trying to spy on the military? Huh. I have seen through everything. Do you think that the apostles of our association are all ignorant? After being brainwashed by Makoto Takahashi, Yoshida finally let Makoto Takahashi return to the room to continue the great work of cracking the code, and Yoshida himself finally had time to continue reading the manga manuscript. However, after reading the content of the three monster comics, Yoshida was a little sluggish. It was not because he was dissatisfied with the content of the comics, but because of the storyline of the comics. Isn't it a coincidence this time, after reading the manga manuscript, Yoshida sat on the sofa in a daze, flipping the manga manuscript in his hands, with a solemn expression between his eyebrows. No, 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 if it were another cartoonist, such a situation may be said to be a coincidence, but if it is Aiken, this kind of thing cannot be regarded as a coincidence. This guy definitely painted it like this on purpose. Of course. Because there are no accidents in this world, only necessity. Makoto Takahashi stood quietly behind Yoshida, with a trembling smile on his face. Hey, my beloved cat, those before the pagans are shouting with joy, so I will try a new trick this time, maybe it can deepen the loyalty of my believers. In terms of content, the three comics don't have many problems. Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi helplessly. After hesitating for a long time, he couldn't help but start persuading, but can't you stagger it a little? The protagonists of this comic are all reduced to supporting roles. One comic is better, but if three comics are like this. Takahashi Makoto did not continue to listen, but chose to return to the room and continue the task of deciphering the code. After the release of the new issue of Shonen Jump, although they still haven't seen to how, many readers have given up completely. However, after reading the three monster comics, characters such as unscrupulous witches will still appear in their minds. This made many readers helpless and angrily accepted the facts. However, the content of the new chapter in Inuyasha has reduced the resistance of many readers by half. Because the entire chapter is telling the story of Sesshomaru and Rei. As the #1 supporting actor in Inuyasha, Sesshomaru is extremely popular among many readers, especially fans of Inuyasha. As a little human girl with mortal bones who has been following Sesshomaru, Ling also left a deep impression on readers with her smile that can heal everything. Sesshomaru has always shown a cold image since his debut, looking down on all humans and his half-demon brother Inuyasha. In addition, he had fought with Inuyasha several times because of his father's inheritance. At the beginning, there were many readers all believe that Sesshomaru is a handsome villain. If Naruko had not appeared, perhaps Sesshomaru would have become Inuyasha's last enemy. But with the appearance of Naruko, many hidden stories are gradually revealed in the comics, such as Waikikyo, who had a romantic relationship with Inuyasha before, turned against Inuyasha, the fate of the Moroka family, the blood feud of the Coral family. Naruko, as a qualified villain, not only successfully attracted a lot of hatred, but also successfully snatched the title of the mastermind villain from Sesshomaru. When they saw this, many readers were happy and confused at the same time. What makes many readers happy is that because of Naruko's actions, he has established his status as a major villain. According to the current direction of comics, Sesshomaru has become Inuyasha's enemy, and it seems impossible to enter the plot of brotherly fratricide, but what many readers are struggling with is that Sesshomaru once cooperated with Naruko. Although in the previous comics, due to Naruko's calculations, Sesshomaru and Naruko completely turned against each other, this also means that the chance of Sesshomaru appearing will be greatly reduced. Especially after the character of Rei appeared on the scene, many readers had an evil worry. Will Sesshomaru, whose hidden attributes were released from Lolita control, take Rei into the mountains and live a secluded life, watching Naruko fighting each other with Inuyasha, the half-demon love rivals? But this worry is unnecessary, because in this episode, apart from the appearance of Inuyasha and his party, Sesshomaru, who has never seen the dragon, also appears. In the small village that Inuyasha and his party passed by, a large number of children were abducted. After understanding that it was the monsters, Inuyasha and his party volunteered to help the villagers eliminate the monsters and get a reward for staying in the village at night, but however, they were told by the villagers that a monk named Master Yunya had taken the lead in seizing this task, so Inuyasha and his party had to stay in the mountains. As for Sesshomaru, Arai realized that she, a human little girl, could not stay with the monster Sesshomaru for a long time because of evil thoughts. When I was tossing and turning in the middle of the night and couldn't fall asleep, I was hypnotized by the music of the Hell Ghost. Although he noticed this situation, the master in the skill bar had acute evil view and was completely unable to stop Ling. He could only watch Ling being taken away. The panicked Siejian tried to find Ling before Sesshomaru came back, but during the search, he was first frightened by the sudden appearance of Sesshomaru, and then was frightened again by Inuyasha and his group. Although Siejian worked hard, but the result is still quite tragic. The Otagakure brought Ling to a cave, where there were many abducted children, who were the missing children in the village before. Facing the Otagakure, the children were scared and cried loudly, but Ling was quite calm and tried to comfort the children of the same age. Because Ling's parents and brother died at the hands of robbers, for Ling, robbers are scarier than monsters. Although this concept was criticized by many children, Ling's attitude was very firm. Although Ling's ideas were a bit naive and extreme, many readers agreed with Ling's point of view. Because like Ling, many readers firmly believed that Lord Shimaru would definitely save Ling. The reason why I didn't say it was because this episode of Inuyasha ended here. What if Shimaru really didn't care about Ling's life or death in the next episode and didn't appear? That would be really, hee. Although the development of the plot was speculated, many readers were still worried. Because the author of this comic was the cruel existence who dared to kill Nohara Shinoshuke and break up the tragic lovers Jin and Hotaru, Fengguangai Yuan Kuma. Second update. Thank you for your monthly tickets, I am so grateful, but I feel guilty because I can't update well. Tomorrow is Children's Day, so everyone be happy, don't say you are old or something, just be happy. Well, and because the college entrance examination is coming soon, so, senior high school students, don't read books anymore, review for the exam, and come on to complete a test in life. I hope you all perform very well. It's not the time for senior high school students to travel through time by accident, so go to the exam with peace of mind, and come back to read after the exam. It's always there when it's posted on the internet. Reading books without worries can make your body and mind more happy. So, come on, senior high school students. The force of a certain cat is with you. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 214. In the Phoenix Academy's Fierce Monster comics, in addition to a large number of monsters, there are also a group of very important characters whose main job is to exterminate monsters and protect humans. Although they are mortal, they have the ability to compete with monsters. Mana, wizards, Yang masters, and the like. A large number of Onmyoges appear in Slicker, not to mention the Onmyoges of the Hanakin family who join forces with Nurarikyo, but the ultimate villain who has now been confirmed to be the final enemy. Onmyoji Abe Sime can be said to be it is famous. As a famous Onmyoji in the history of Dongjo, there are naturally many comic novels describing him. In Slippery Ghost, Abe Sime, who became the final enemy, was able to resist Nurarikyo's gathering of hundreds of ghosts when he appeared on the stage. Needless to say, the strength of Gamai, which is exerted with all his strength. In The Tide and the Tiger, a large number of mages appeared. Just like Ziokeo's father Zimua, this appearance looks like a bad uncle, and his strength is also extremely tyrannical, and the escort who was involved in a life and death battle with Ahu due to a misunderstanding was able to suppress Ahu with his own strength, and his strength is natural. Needless to say, even the group of young mages who had planned to seize the beast's spear from Xiao Chao before had extremely powerful combat power. In these two monster comics, whether it is an onmyoji, a shrine maiden, or a mage, their own strength can roughly compete with many great monster-level existences. Although it is a monster comic, there are also many monsters in the comics. He has met many humans who are as good as monsters. As for Tuhao, needless to say, the Maiko Hakure Ryemu is a monster-like existence without moral integrity. However, in the manga Inuyasha, there are basically no powerful supporting characters such as wizards. Because Kagome and Moroku were affected by the halo of the protagonist, they were naturally outside the norm. Even the shrine maiden Suizi who created the Shikin Tamaram eventually ended up dying with the monsters. As for Kikyo, although she has great strength, because of he is a living dead, so in essence, he should be regarded as a monster. Many readers have waited anxiously for a week and finally got the new chapter of Inuyasha. After seeing Ling being captured by the Oni before, many readers believed that Sesshomaru would appear at a critical moment, kill the miscellaneous monster Ono Oni with one blow, and calmly save Ling. However, at the beginning of this chapter of the comic, the plot did not appear as the readers expected, but instead told about the actions of Master Yunya and his party. Although they are very worried about Ling's comfort, many readers are still curious when looking at the imposing Master Yunya and others when they appear. After all, among the several monster comics, only Inuyasha has the most significant presence of the wizard. Weak. Except for Kikyo, Kagome, and Moroku, the occasional mage who appears is either a charlatan or a scumbag. At the beginning of the comic, the timeline jumped forward for a while, before Master Yunya and others accepted the mission of finding the child abducted by the monster. Master Yunya traveled around the world with his men, constantly killing monsters along the way. When passing by a small village, I found a killing monster. That was Sesshomaru who was looking for Naraku. When Sesshomaru happened to pass by a small village, he encountered a group of bandits who were burning, killing and looting. Sesshomaru, who had planned to pass by, was discovered by these bandits. And these bandits are so stubborn that they try to besiege Sesshomaru. Seeing this, many readers can't help but sigh. In the words of Brother Yulidan, you are asking for your own death. As a result, the bandit gang's siege plan failed miserably, and Sesshomaru completed the super god's counterattack by himself. The killing process of Sesshomaru happened to be witnessed by Master Yunya and others. Although Master Yunya wanted to surround Sesshomaru, he was frightened by the demonic energy released by Sesshomaru and stopped the fight without restraint. Many readers, while admiring Master Yunya and others for their courage to confront Sesshomaru head-on, also had to lament that the ignorant are fearless. However, after seeing this, many readers have roughly guessed that Master Yunya and others will definitely face Sesshomaru again. Master Yunya and others, because they triggered the mission of looking for the child abducted by the monster, they were still wandering in the mountains late at night, and they met Inuyasha and his party. Seeing this, many readers couldn't help but lament that the luck of Master Yunya and others was really bad. Meeting the dog brothers one after another, this kind of luck is really, no words. Of course, at this time, many readers just lamented the bad luck of Master Yunya and others. But when they saw in the comics that Master Yunya accused Inuyasha and his party for no reason, many readers were speechless. With the help of the monster's power, one day the monster will bite you back. Regarding the monsters Shippo and Kirare who were following Inuyasha and his party, Master Yunya fired the map cannon as soon as he came up and pointed at them mercilessly. The implication was that he hoped that Inuyasha and others would abandon Shippo and Kirare. Faced with Inuyasha's disdainful sneer, Master Yunya turned the target of his taunting skills to Inuyasha, who had turned into a human form because of Seikutsu. Young man, that weapon on your waist, is the demon sword? It's impossible for a mere human to control the demon sword. Give up as soon as possible, so as to avoid future disasters. Is this guy's head twitching? Many readers were speechless when they saw this. Inuyasha's demon sword, Tessagá, was the relic of Inu no Taisho. How could Inuyasha give it up? Many readers thought that with Inuyasha's temperament, he would definitely teach Master Yunya a lesson, but to everyone's disappointment, Inuyasha did not do it, and the expected battle scene did not appear. After Master Yunya left, through Maitreya's description of Master Yunya's past, many readers knew that Master Yunya was not crazy, but because he held the old idea that humans and monsters cannot live in harmony, and believed that the existence of monsters is evil. Just like many parents think that the bloody and violent scenes in anime will lead their children astray, so they forbid their children to watch anime. Although it is out of good intentions, this idea of killing with one stick is indeed a bit extreme. So although I can understand Master Yunya's idea, many readers do not agree. The first person to find the Otogaku was not Lord Shimaru, as many readers and Ling expected, but Master Yunya and his subordinates. As a monster that specializes in abducting children, the sound prison ghost itself is not very powerful, so it was naturally easily destroyed by Master Yunya. It must be said that although Master Yunya's ideas are old, from the comics, his strength is still relatively strong. However, Master Yunya, who successfully saved the children, encountered a small trouble. Among the rescued children, the little girl named Ling did not accept Master Yunya's rescue, but curled up in the cave with peace of mind, looking forward to the arrival of Master Shimaru. Master Yunya naturally couldn't leave a little girl outside, so he ignored Ling's objection and prepared to take Ling away by force. Although Ling has been with Shimaru for a while, she is still a little lowly, and she only has a simple understanding of the existence of the world. For Ling, monsters are not the most terrifying existence. After all, whether monsters eat people or kill people, it is just out of instinct, but the existence of humans, while claiming the nobility of human existence, is worse than monsters. For Ling, who had a tragic past, humans are more terrifying than monsters. Don't talk nonsense. How can humans be more terrifying than monsters? You are a child from a nearby village. Yunya Master does not agree with Ling's point of view. This master, who has always been committed to eliminating monsters and saving people, always has prejudices against monsters. As for Ling's point of view, even if Yunya Master knows that there are indeed some scum among humans who are not as good as monsters, it does not mean that Yunya Master can let go of his prejudice against monsters. In fact, it should be Shimaru who found the sound prison ghost first. However, seeing Yunya Master take the lead, Shimaru quietly hid on one side. Shimaru naturally heard the conversation between Ling and Yunya Master. Shimaru, who originally planned to wait and see, released a trace of demonic energy after hearing Ling's call, attracting the attention of Yunya Master. Who is it? After Master Yunya sensed the demonic aura, he threw the demon-killing magic weapon into the dark forest without hesitation. After the violent explosion, Shimaru stood there with a cold face. Seeing Shimaru finally appear, many readers showed an expression of as expected on their faces, holding their breath and preparing to enjoy the next battle. Just as Master Yunya had a prejudice against monsters, Shimaru had no good feelings towards humans. Monsters that hate humans and humans who hate monsters, when the two meet, the wheel of fate begins to turn. Well, Ling has died once. Although she looks like a little lowly, according to her camp affiliation, she is not a normal human being, but a reborn person. Therefore, the existence of rebirth, in essence, should no longer be considered human. Says Homaru-sama, Ling, who was clamped by Master Yunya's waist, saw Shimaru suddenly appear, and a happy smile appeared on her face. This smile was also called the most healing and warmest smile in Inuyasha by many readers before. This monster, is the monster we met before. One of Master Yunya's subordinates recognized Shimaru and shouted in surprise. It's actually a hateful monster. Master Yunya was defensive and scolded Shimaru, which made readers want to cover their faces. Hateful monster, Are you the one who bewitched this little girl? This monster is entangled with an ominous aura. We must not ignore it, let alone hand the little girl over to this monster. Inuyasha has been serialized to the present. Although Inuyasha, as the protagonist, has an uncertain emotional path and wanders between Kagome and Kikyo, which makes readers very entangled, the cold-faced nobleman's Shimaru and the little lowly Ling have become the official match in the hearts of many readers. However, what Master Yunya is doing now is to break up this official match, which makes many readers resentful. Your Highness Shimaru, please teach Master Yunya a lesson. At this moment, many readers have the same idea in their hearts. In the end, the first person to take action was Master Yunya. The way he dealt with the Otagakure before, the attack that amazed many readers, was used to deal with Shimaru this time. Looking at the explosion rendering in the comics, although they knew that Shimaru was powerful, many readers, like Ling, began to worry about Shimaru. I couldn't wait to turn to the next page of the comic and saw Sesshomaru standing uninjured. Many readers breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at the surprised face of Master Yunya in the comics, many readers laughed happily and couldn't help but look forward to it in their hearts. Because of such an act of provoking Sesshomaru, Master Yunya and his team visually determined the tragedy. The comic suddenly inserted Inuyasha and his party, who were rushing over because they sensed that Master Yunya and his party were fighting. Combined with the description of the evil view before, Inuyasha and his party have determined that the one currently fighting Master Yunya is definitely Sesshomaru. What effect can human beings have on weather-resistant spells? Inuyasha, who was running fast, had a disdainful smile on his face. It will definitely be torn into pieces by Sesshomaru. As Inuyasha said, although beings like Master Yunya can destroy some small monsters, they are completely vulnerable to big monsters, especially big monsters of Sesshomaru's level. Sesshomaru easily defeated the strongest attack of Master Yunya and others just by releasing his demonic energy, and at the same time destroyed Master Yunya's scepter. Ling also took advantage of this opportunity to get rid of Master Yunya's control and happily ran towards Sesshomaru. Master Yunya collapsed to the ground with a cold sweat on his face. This stubborn old man who knew nothing about life and death was shocked by the powerful strength of Sesshomaru. This scene made many readers very satisfied, and the words "deserted" or "you deserved it" kept popping up in their hearts. Ling. You make your own choice. Facing Ling, who rushed over with a smile on his face, Sesshomaru just said this, and then turned and left. Choose to live with humans, or choose to continue to follow yourself. Although Sesshomaru did not finish his words, both Ling in the comic and the readers who read the comic understood what Sesshomaru meant. Hi, Ling didn't hesitate at all, a smile appeared on her face, and she quickly chased Sesshomaru. Wait a minute, that's a monster. It's a monster. Master Yunya grabbed Ling's hand and began to try to use verbal hints to interfere with Ling's choice. That monster won't take care of a human child like you. The world of monsters is different from the world of humans. Ling's running figure stopped because Ling remembered the evil words she had said before. The human world is indeed different from that of monsters. Compared to the long-lived monsters, the short lifespan of humans is a huge weakness. Seeing Ling stop suddenly, many readers couldn't help but feel nervous, worried that Ling would be persuaded by Master Yunya to stop following Sesshomaru. Many readers are gnashing their teeth in hatred towards Master Yunya right now. However, Ling turned around, squinted her eyes and showed a sweet smile, waved gently, and then ran again. Follower Sesshomaru left, leaving Master Yunya with a dull look. It is undeniable that the innocent and bright smile on Ling's face at this moment is really touching. Hey, Lord Sesshomaru. If Ling dies one day, can you not forget Ling? Because this is Ling's wish to be with Sesshomaru-sama forever. Perhaps in the eyes of readers, Ling's wish is so humble and insignificant, so simple and simple. Stop saying stupid things. Sesshomaru was stunned for a moment, and then replied tepidly. What Sesshomaru really wants to say is that of course he will not forget Ling, or that Ling's death will not happen. The comic ends here, but many readers are not happy. Although I have already made a guess in my mind that the next chapter will not tell the story between Sesshomaru and Rei, many readers are very resentful for the answer given by the Phoenix Academy Kumaru. If you want to know the answer, you can only read it patiently. This kind of approach can be said to be a trap for the devil. Is the Phoenix Academy really vicious? A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 215. 2 months is neither long nor short. For a comic, it is only about 8 chapters long. In Inuyasha, 2 of the 7 people have been eliminated. In Slicker, it has also entered the final chapter of the Hyakumonogatari group. As for the comic Ushio and Tora, Zyushio still takes Ahu to continue traveling middle. Although the rankings of the 3 monster comics fluctuate, they have not fallen out of the top 10, but Yoshida is a little confused. Because since the chapter Inuyasha describing Sesshomaru and Rei came in second place, the 3 monster comics have all gone silent and have never been ranked among the top 3 again. Although Yoshida was not very satisfied with the result, he didn't say anything to Makoto Takahashi. After all, every cartoonist has a trough at some point, and judging from Makoto Takahashi's current achievements, it's not actually a trough. What's more, when he thinks of Takahashi Makoto serializing 3 monster comics at the same time, Yoshida will always enter the self-comfort mode. It is enough to achieve such results. Compared with Hirameru-kun, Takahashi Makoto is much better. So Yoshida focused all his attention on the Little Sea Otter, and the Little Sea Otter's suffering days began. On Makoto Takahashi's side, something happened that made Makoto Takahashi's assistants no longer willing to ask for a break or vacation. Because 3 days ago, on Friday, Makoto Takahashi suddenly made a decision that surprised his assistant. Because of your full cooperation, after Touhou, we will enter the peak period of the yokai era. In order to welcome the peak of the yokai era, you need to fully develop your potential. At the very least, you are required to master the 7th sense. The explosion of a small universe, the second stage transformation of a Saiyan, or the mastery of an inherent barrier. Completely ignoring the confused and helpless look on his assistant's face, Makoto Takahashi stood on the table and continued, although this thing sounds difficult to do, but as the dependents chosen by my Phoenix Academy, you can definitely do it. Therefore, in the next 3 days, you can choose a practice method that suits you, and you don't have to appear in front of me. Within the boundary. Cheng, do you mean, give us 3 days of vacation? Ding Ding looked at Cheng Takahashi in surprise, with a look of disbelief on his face. Tintin has been working here for a long time. Although Takahashi Makoto's salary here is higher than that of other cartoonists, because Takahashi Makoto serializes 3 comics at the same time, the workload is actually very large. It is not easy to complete the comic manuscript within the specified time. As for the extravagant hope of rest and vacation like other assistants, I can only hide in bed at night and have sex with tears. It is really not easy for Makoto Takahashi to say the word holiday. Listen, these 3 days are not for you to relax. Makoto Takahashi looked at the assistants who started cheering, with a sarcastic sneer on his face. As my Phoenix Academy's fierce warrior, I will conquer the world. Slaves and chess pieces, you must have strength beyond ordinary mortal bones. I hope you can practice hard in the spiritual time room for 3 days. Let's disband. Now, Cheng, what are you thinking about? Ding Ding did not get carried away with joy because he got 3 days of vacation. Instead, he pondered thoughtfully for a moment and looked at Makoto Takahashi with a worried look on his face. Although I think it is a happy thing to have a vacation, but, my intuition tells me that something bad will definitely happen in 3 days. Although intuition or instinct can save lives at many critical times, but relying too much on so-called intuition and instinct will corrupt your soul. Although Takahashi Makoto looked serious, Tintin could feel that, Takahashi Makoto's words flickered as if he was hiding something. Is there really no plan? Ding Ding launched the test again, looked at Makoto Takahashi seriously, and tried to activate the facial analysis technique to learn the so-called truth from Makoto Takahashi's face. Humph. Even if there is really a plan, it's hard to explain it to you with your wisdom. Seeing Ding Ding's searching face, Takahashi Makoto curled his lips in displeasure. Of course, if you insist on asking if so, I can tell you responsibly that everything in this world will follow the law of equivalent exchange. Equivalent exchange? The corner of Tintin's mouth twitched, and the ominous premonition became more and more intense. When he wanted to continue questioning Takahashi Makoto, he was pulled aside by Aoi Ueno. Uncle Ding, about this holiday. Ueno Aoi dragged Ding Ding to the entrance and secretly glanced at Makoto Takahashi, who was sitting cross-legged on a chair meditating. After confirming that Makoto Takahashi entered meditation mode and did not switch to eavesdropping mode, he whispered said, "When I went to the bathroom before, I secretly heard Xiao Cheng talking on the phone. Calling? Well, I remember that time." Ding Ding frowned and recalled, remembering Takahashi Makoto's cautious actions before, and a look of understanding appeared on his face. Is it Sister Korina? Wait, so to speak, the so-called the holiday is actually because... Well, because Rina-chan is coming back, Makoto wants to spend time with Rina. Ueno Aoi couldn't help but sigh after saying this. Although Takahashi Makoto spends most of his time in a non-normal human place category, but when it comes to treating Rina's feelings, he is quite serious. Shaking his head slightly, Ueno Aoi tried to put aside distracting thoughts. Although Xiao Cheng didn't say it, it should be like this. Cheng is serious. It would be nice to just say this directly. Is this necessary? Ding Ding secretly glanced at Makoto Takahashi and found that although someone had finished meditating and was drawing seriously, there was a look of anticipation on his face. The smile cannot be concealed. Soon, all the assistants knew the news, so before leaving Takahashi Makoto's house, everyone had a joking expression on their faces, and Takahashi Makoto also showed an incomprehensible and strange smile. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. When Ding Ding came to Takahashi Makoto's house, he saw that Takahashi Makoto looked depressed, with a look on his face that said young people should pay attention to moderation, but when Ding Ding came to his seat, his face became a little ugly. Hey, Cheng, what's going on? Ding Ding looked at the comic manuscripts stacked on the table, and his jaw dropped in surprise. Are you kidding me? Why do so many of them suddenly appear? Tintin remembers it very clearly. He worked hard on Friday and finally finished the manga manuscripts piled on the table before leaving, but today when he came to Takahashi Makoto's house and saw the manga manuscripts like a mountain, Tintin, everyone is feeling bad. Like Tintin, there are also several assistants. Facing a thick pile of comic manuscripts on the table, my face was covered with black lines. The assistants looked at each other, and it was only at this moment that they understood what Takahashi Makoto said about equivalent exchange before. Hey, everyone is here, right? Makoto Takahashi lay on the back of the chair with a pale face. He looked very haggard because of staying up late. However, seeing the dull and surprised expressions on the faces of everyone beside his assistant, Makoto Takahashi still very happy. Gentlemen, after 3 days of practice, what level have you reached? Let me, the Phoenix Academy, witness it. You are so brave that no one can defeat you. Looking at this number of manga manuscripts and the haggard look on Takahashi Makoto's face, Tintin has determined that in the past 3 days, Takahashi Makoto definitely did not accompany Rina's sister as Aoi Ueno said, but stayed awake. Staying up late at night drawing comics, because the amount in front of me is definitely not something that can be completed in 1 day. I knew it would be like this. After complaining helplessly, Ding Ding looked at Makoto Takahashi with a sad face. He originally wanted to scold Makoto Takahashi, but when he saw Takahashi Cheng's face turned pale, Ding Ding arrived. The words on his lips did turn into words of comfort. Hey, Chen, go and have a good rest now. The rest of the work will be left to us. It's me. Which, do you need help? Hey, at this time. Makoto Takahashi took his mobile phone and slowly walked to his bedroom. Although everyone on the assistant side was very curious about the content of Makoto Takahashi's call, when they thought of the manga manuscripts piled on the table, wailing began to echo in the room. Although the assistant's work is not complicated, they just add lines or draw backgrounds to the cartoon manuscripts provided by the cartoonist, but the large number of cartoon manuscripts, just visually, makes the assistants feel a strong sense of powerlessness. What's more, the assistants who were working discovered a problem. Except for the top 10 pages of comic manuscripts, this cartoon manuscript. This comic manuscript. Ding Ding stopped painting, with a puzzled look on his face, turned around, and handed the comic manuscript in his hand to Ueno Aoi. Xiao Aoi, look at it, this comic manuscript doesn't seem to be. Uncle Ding, has this happened to you too? Ueno Aoi casually glanced at the comic manuscript in Ding Ding's hand, with the same look of confusion on his face, and handed the comic manuscript in which lines were being added to Ding Ding. Look, the same goes for my comic manuscript here. This should be a new comic manuscript. Jing He also rarely stopped painting, with a look of surprise on his face, and looked at everyone blankly. Is the same with the comic manuscript in your hands? I thought I was the only one like this. New comic manuscript. Jing He's prompt made Ding Ding look surprised. He carefully looked through the comic manuscript in his hand. Looking at the yellowed paper, a look of understanding appeared on his face, and there was some resentment in his tone. Let me tell you, in just 3 days, no matter how evil Cheng is, there is no way he could have completed such a number of comic manuscripts. Look carefully at the paper of the comic manuscripts. These comic manuscripts should have been written by Cheng very early. Completed before. Really, what are you thinking, Makoto? It's already very difficult to serialize 3 comics, do you still need to draw a new manga manuscript? Ueno Aoi put down the manga manuscript with a look of helplessness. Mr. Yoshida also said it before, whether it is a magazine or a cartoonist, serializing 3 comics at the same time is the limit, and serializing 4 comics at the same time is absolutely impossible. Tujalug. Mayuri likes the style of this painting very much. Mayuri held up the manga manuscript high with a cute look on her face. When I was drawing before, Mayuri thought these monsters would be new ones. The monster appearing, turns out to be a new comic. I'm really looking forward to it. As Mayuri said, because there are many monsters in this comic, Tintin, Ueno Aoi and others were initially regarded as characters appearing in the new chapter. Only Shizuka discovered these newly appeared monsters. It does not belong to any of the current serialized monster comics. It seems you have finally discovered it. Takahashi Makoto, who had been standing by the door since some time ago, showed an expectant smile on his face. When the 3 forks of the monster era appeared at the same time, the chaotic earth became the cemetery of monsters. After all the powerful and terrifying monsters disappeared, the weak monsters would gradually be forgotten by humans. That's right, the comic manuscripts in your hands are the existence that witnesses the end of the monster era. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do SD Mao. Chapter 216. Although they have completed a lot of drawings and know part of the content, all the assistants are full of curiosity about the theme of the new comic, what its name is and when it will be serialized, but Makoto Takahashi he stuck to his words and didn't reveal any news at all. Although a group of delinquent uncles and evil teenagers led by Tintin allowed 2 girls, Aoi Ueno and Mayuri, to resort to cute and seductive attacks in uniforms, for Makoto Takahashi, who has switched to a wife control, This level of attack can't even do something as simple as breaking through defense. Nani? New comics. Yoshida, who came to complete the copy of manga artist Phoenix in Murama, was shocked when he learned the news. He looked at his tired assistants in disbelief and turned to Takahashi Makoto. Bedroom door. Although I really want to pull Takahashi Makoto's collar and ask this second-level manga artist what he is thinking and what he wants to do, but considering that Takahashi Makoto will switch to hypoglycemic Demon King mode in advance due to lack of sleep, the consequences, not to mention violently kicking the door open at this time, even making a slightly louder sound would disturb Takahashi Makoto, who was sleeping, and Yoshida would never dare to do it. Is this the new manga manuscript? Yoshida took the manga manuscript from his assistant's hand and looked through it with a look of resentment and depression. However, to everyone's surprise, the new manga manuscript, Yoshida was not too surprised. After flipping through a few pages, he put the manga manuscript on the table and let out a long sigh. It turns out this is the manga manuscript. Mr. Yoshida, do you know, seeing the understanding look on Yoshida's face, everyone on the assistant side couldn't help but Dante. When I participated in the popular Cartoonists Love Short Story Festival, do you still remember the work that Cheng participated in, that is, Firefly? When Yoshida said this, there was a strange look on his face, but the assistant said because everyone was anxious to know the so-called truth, they didn't pay too much attention to the look on Yoshida's face. They all looked at Yoshida expectantly, waiting for Yoshida to continue talking. Actually, I didn't want Cheng to participate at the time. After all, the burden of serializing comics at the same time was already huge, and it took time to create new comics, especially since Cheng had never drawn a love-type comic before. By the way, do these two things have anything to do with each other? The assistant looked sideways at Yoshida, who was gradually entering the memory-killing mode, and wanted to remind him several times, but seeing the angry look on Yoshida's face, he could only be a quiet listener. But Cheng's attitude was very firm and he said that he must participate. He secretly looked at Takahashi Cheng's bedroom. Although this could not be regarded as talking about others behind their backs, the closed door did not reveal anything. Let Yoshida feel enough sense of security. Yoshida lowered his voice and continued in a low voice, I was just joking at the time, saying that as long as you can draw Cheng, let alone a comic, you can even make a few more. Who knows that guy Cheng? When I heard after saying this, with an inexplicable smile on his face, he took out a bunch of comic manuscripts from the drawer. There is no need to describe the rest. At that time, the act of someone submitting 2 works by himself had already spread. As an assistant under Makoto Takahashi, he naturally knew about this matter, but, after understanding the detailed process, the assistant simultaneously launched the white eyes of contempt attack on Yoshida. Wait a minute, Mr. Yoshida, what do you mean? Tintin grabbed the comic manuscripts on the table and looked at Yoshida with disbelief. Did Cheng complete these comic manuscripts a long time ago? This is impossible. We have been working here for a long time, but I remember that since I came, apart from the comics that are being serialized, I have never seen Cheng draw other comics. Me too. And if you count, I have been here the longest. Ueno Aoi also shook her head. Among the entire studio, the one who has spent the longest time with Makoto Takahashi is probably the only one who has been here since. At the beginning of Rebellion, she became Makoto Takahashi's assistant. Although she is not the oldest, Aoi Ueno is the oldest assistant. It is said that I really liked Xiao Cheng's DN at that time, so I wanted to work with Xiao Cheng as his assistant. But from the beginning of Rebellion to now, the pace of Xiao Cheng's comics drawing is getting faster and faster, and the tasks are also getting faster and faster. It's getting heavier and heavier. There's basically no time to draw new comics, so it's good to be able to finish the comics on time. About this, I think it should be that guy Aiken. As soon as Yoshida started to speak, he was startled by the voice coming from behind. Just as my familiar cat thought, I had already drawn those comics before I summoned you. Makoto Takahashi did not put on an eye patch because he had just woken up, and there was a scar on his left eye. It looks a bit ferocious, and with his white coat attire, this crazy evil scientist looks like the villain in many graphic novels. Especially when Makoto Takahashi spoke, there was a disdainful smile on his face. If a person with a strong sense of justice saw Takahashi Makoto like this, he would definitely give him a beating without saying a word. Are you aware of it now? Humph. There is no way around it. After all, your level is too low. The existence of someone who can instantly understand the ferocious thoughts of our Phoenix Academy will never appear in this world. Because of our Phoenix Academy Jujhen, to you mortals, can be regarded as a god-level existence. In other words, did you already start drawing when you were serializing DN? Although he had already guessed it, Yoshida couldn't help but take a deep breath after hearing Makoto Takahashi admit it personally. The look in his eyes towards Makoto Takahashi also became something wrong. Hey, don't be kidding, you were probably just a junior high school student at that time, how is this possible? The faces of the people on the assistant side also showed surprise and suspicion. The other comics are easier to talk about, but for the manga that surprised the assistant before, Makoto Takahashi said that he had thought of it when he was in junior high school, not to mention Yoshida, even the assistant didn't believe it at all. Because everyone on the assistant side clearly remembers that the manga Takahashi Makoto mentioned will be the final work of the yokai era. That's right, that was the summer when I was still practicing. I was seriously injured due to an attack by the witch's anti-army weapon. I was on the verge of death, but I suddenly felt a strange power. It was also at that time that I could predict the future. The prophet's demonic eye has awakened. After Takahashi Makoto put on the eye patch, he moved his right hand across his right eye, facing the confused people, with a crazy smile on his face. Although he can't see everyone's future clearly, but I have already seen the prosperity of the monster era through the prophet's demonic eyes. I see your sister. Yoshida and the people beside his assistant felt their hearts trampled by hundreds of thousands of grass and mud horses. If Takahashi Makoto had already thought of the three comics of yokai era, Yoshida and his assistants would be able to accept it. But now, according to what Makoto Takahashi said, before the era of monsters was created, the comics to be drawn have already been thought out. As a cartoonist, and a cartoonist suffering from Chuyunibu, don't change your job to lay out without authorization. Is it good to be a strategist who seeks to conquer the world? But Makoto Takahashi has proven that what he said is true through the manga manuscripts in his hands, especially that these manga manuscripts were drawn before the arrival of the chosen assistant. Although everyone still refuses to believe Gao Cheng's words were powerless to refute. This means that when I was still in junior high school, when Takahashi Makoto was drawing DN, I had already thought that three monster comics would be serialized at the same time in the future. Hey, Takahashi Makoto, you have figured it out. Can the fourth stage of unlocking the gene lock simulate the level of Colonel Chu's thinking? Okay, I know how good you are. Yoshida sorted out the comic manuscript and looked at the mad smile on Makoto Takahashi's face, with a tangled look between his eyebrows. But the problem now is that you are already here. Shonen Jump has three comics serialized at the same time. Regardless of the possibility that the editor will agree to your fourth yokai comic, and whether you have the time and energy to serialize four comics at the same time, Cheng, have you ever thought about it? However, no matter how interesting this yokai manga is, it is still a yokai manga. Hey, my beloved cat, I know everything you want to say, but, did you make a mistake? Seeing Yoshida's look of listen to me, Makoto Takahashi's face showed you've fallen into a trap. Smile. Who told you that I plan to serialize this comic now? Unfortunately, now is not the time for this comic to debut. The assistant side completely fell into sluggish mode, and they all looked at Makoto Takahashi with resentful eyes. Since we don't want to serialize it now, Why do we have to keep everyone busy completing the comic manuscript? Because of the mountain of manga manuscripts, everyone on the assistant side has taken the initiative to work overtime these days. Now suddenly hearing what Takahashi Makoto said, the anger of all the assistant side members increased by 100, reaching the critical point of blackening. I've said it before, this is a trial. Do you understand the trial? Makoto Takahashi looked at his assistant's fooled expression, his tone full of disappointment. The so-called trial. I want you to understand the importance of teamwork. Kakashi-sensei said that those who do not cherish their companions. But Chang, deceit, is this your attitude towards your companions? Not only Ding Ding, but also Ueno Aoi, who had always been on Takahashi Makoto's side, was a little angry, and the so-called shared hatred arose among his assistants. Heart. Hey, 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 don't show such an angry look. It's just a little comic draft. Is it worth complaining like this? Eyes that are lost in reason because of anger cannot see the hidden truth and the hopeful future. Makoto Takahashi leaned under the table, took out a key, opened the locked drawer next to it, and took out 4 cardboard boxes. These are all manga manuscripts I drew before, and I didn't take them all at once. Come out, you should be grateful to the kind-hearted Phoenix Academy master. Damn it, this amount, there are so many comic manuscripts hidden in that locked drawer. Not only the people on the assistant side, but even Yoshida could not sit still. However, everyone looked at the 4 boxes of comic manuscripts with doubts on their faces. It was not that they doubted the originality of the comic manuscripts, but they wanted to ask Takahashi Makoto, is it true that there is no fat blue man who traveled through time and space in your family? It feels like that drawer has evolved into a noble phantasm capable of mass-producing manga manuscripts. This is just a part of it. The rest of the comics have been hidden in an invisible barrier. Takahashi Makoto said to himself, completely ignoring the psychological tolerance of the crowd, and then stood on the table, looking down at the crowd. Although the previous trial did not achieve the effect I expected, I have seen your bravery. So I will take it. But before that, my beloved cat, I want to ask you something. What? For some reason, looking at the familiar smile on Takahashi Makoto's face, Yoshida instantly had a bad feeling. You said that 3 monster comics, using the synchronous secret technique, entered the end at the same time. Takahashi Makoto smiled, but said something that made Yoshida tremble with fear. Will my followers, in their excitement, burn the organization's headquarters to ashes and turn it into a hell on earth? Tisk tisk, that interesting scene, I am looking forward to it. Sorry, it's a little late today. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 217. Yoshida walked to Yuisha with a gloomy expression, but his head was thinking about what Takahashi Makoto said before, and he had a headache. If all 3 yokai comics were finished at the same time. Perhaps when other cartoonists said this, Yoshida would sneer and regard it as a joke, but if these words came from Takahashi Makoto, Yoshida could not treat it as a child's play. Because Yoshida believes that since Makoto Takahashi said it openly, he will definitely do it. And what makes Yoshida most angry is that according to the previous habit of a certain second grader, since he dares to say this, it means that Takahashi Makoto has already decided to do this, and if he wants to stop it, it is already too late. Of course, the reason why Takahashi Makoto said this was not out of courtesy, but writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Looking at you struggling, I can't change any predetermined destiny. It's like God standing in the clouds, looking down at the swarm of human ants, feeling helpless to survive when caught in a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. That kind of pleasant feeling has nothing to do with it. Doubt is the realm that I, Phoenix Academy Jujhen, have been pursuing all my life. Originally, Yoshida thought that as he grew older, Takahashi Makoto's Chuyunibu would be relieved slightly. Especially after learning that Takahashi Makoto changed his job and became a housewife, Yoshida once naively thought that Shuyunibu and other issues would come naturally. He was cured, but thinking back to what Takahashi Makoto was like before, Yoshida really felt that he was too sweet before. Not to mention that Takahashi Makoto's Shuyunibu was cured, but he had evolved to a new level, and there were still something that makes people cringe. By the way, Makoto Takahashi, wouldn't it be better for you to just be a middle school student? Why do you still need to turn on the sinister attribute and add the S-shaking aura in the final stage of the secondary state? So, the most annoying thing about the black-bellied S-Chuyunibu and so on. Thinking back to Makoto Takahashi holding the manga manuscript and describing with a look full of expectation how to get the editorial department into huge trouble or even destruction, Yoshida can already foresee that his future is already dark. With a helpless sigh, Yoshida came to the editor-in-chief. Facing the cold light of death reflected by the editor's glasses, even though he was infinitely afraid, Yoshida's sense of responsibility as an editor forced him to bite the bullet and start telling the editor about the beginning and end of the matter, as well as his own personal thoughts. And at this time, Makoto Takahashi welcomed a rare visitor to his house. "Hey, King of Black Flame, you are really brave to stand up alone like this." Holding Ruri and Sadaharu in his arms, Takahashi Makoto looked at his new wife Ag squatting on the sofa, with a puzzled expression on his face. His expression said, "What is the specific situation? Was it a night attack by the Siren Girl, or was that bad gangster editor trying to drag you into the Nippori cult? Because Mr. Phoenix Academy, your comics have been a bit boring lately." Eiji Nyaizuma was lying on the table, biting a straw in his mouth. He didn't look at Makoto Takahashi's expression and started talking to himself. "Three Monster comics, it's all like this. There are no battle scenes in the recent Three Monster comics. Even in Inuyasha, where the protagonist begins to eliminate the 7 people, Inuyasha cannot be ranked among the top 3, let alone the remaining 2. This monster comic is all in the stage of laying out a foreshadowing plot. Compared with the previous battles one after another, it is a bit boring." So, regarding Eiji's evaluation, Takahashi Makoto did not deny it, because what he said was absolutely right. However, in Takahashi Makoto's impression, Eiji Shinzuma would not go out of his way to visit because of such a thing. "King of Black Flame, what do you want to say? Teacher from the Phoenix Institute, is this a new manga manuscript?" Suddenly seeing the manga manuscript under the table, Nyaizuma Eiji suddenly became energetic. He quickly picked up the manga manuscript and began to lower his head to read it. He didn't say anything before. After that, he kept silent about it. And Makoto Takahashi did not stop Eiji Nyaizuma's behavior. With an expectant smile on his face, he stared at Eiji Nyaizuma, who was reading the manga manuscript. "I roughly understand your purpose." Although Eiji Nyaizuma was immersed in comics, Makoto Takahashi knew that Eiji Nyaizuma had not acquired the ability to shut down hearing, so he said to himself, "I have said before that the yokai era is just the beginning, and the battle between us will only begin after we enter the social era. The manga manuscript in your hand is not only the final work of the yokai era, but also my formal declaration of war on you." "That's very interesting." I don't know if Eiji Nyaizuma is talking about the content of the comic or what Makoto Takahashi said. "But before that, King of Black Flame, you have to go through a trial." Makoto Takahashi didn't say anything to Eiji's pun-laden reply, but stood up and came to the table. "Picking up the comic script I drew before, although I really want to kill you with one blow, it seems that it is not very easy. But if you don't give it a try, my soul will be angry. So I will use the pinnacle of the monster era. Come and try it. After all, the monsters created through superfusion are very sharp. And although the previous match could only be regarded as a draw in terms of result, Makoto Takahashi thought that he had lost a bit. After all, through the results of 3 comics, he was able to equal Eiji Shinzuma in terms of votes. This result still made Takahashi Makoto a little unhappy. Superfusion. Regarding Makoto Takahashi's statement, Eiji Niizuma showed a confused look on his face. However, looking at the manga manuscript in Makoto Takahashi's hand, Eiji Niizuma reacted after a moment, with a hint of expectation flashing in his eyes, and he narrowed his eyes. He stared at Makoto Takahashi and said, "I see, if you do that, I'm looking forward to it." Eiji, the new wife, who has roughly guessed Takahashi Makoto's plan, immediately plans to retreat. Now that Makoto Takahashi has understood it, Eiji, the new wife, naturally does not need to waste time. However, Eiji, the new wife who walked outside the door, looked at the door next door, stopped, a strange smile appeared on his face, and said softly in a voice that was imperceptible to Makoto Takahashi. "But Phoenix Academy teacher, I'm not the only enemy of yours." After seeing off his new wife Eiji, and looking at the manga manuscripts scattered on the table, Takahashi Makoto's face became a little tangled. "I want to finish 3 comics at the same time. Although I look forward to such a scene, it is quite difficult to actually do it." Makoto Takahashi has been thinking about how to create a scene where 3 yokai comics will be completed at the same time for a long time. Although we have already thought about using superfusion, we still need an opportunity. After all, the timelines of the 3 comics are different. The background of the story of Inuyasha is set in the Warring States period, and the remaining 2 comics, it happens in modern times. If you want to use hyperconvergence. With the comic manuscripts laid out on the table, Makoto Takahashi curled up on the sofa, his brain working rapidly, imagining the intersection of the story again and again, and denying his own ideas again and again. After struggling for a long time, his face the solemn expression finally dissipated. "Well, just follow the previous plan. After all, among the 3 comics, Naruko seems to be the weakest existence." Spreading out a piece of white paper, Takahashi Makoto thought and wrote on the paper with a pen. After thinking about the next development, he muttered, "The plot of Platycodon's death cannot be abandoned. After all, it is something that must be explained before it ends. Ahu's past must also be explained. After all, it is related to the final enemy, the white-faced man." The ideas became clearer and clearer, and the pen used by Makoto Takahashi to write the outline became faster and faster. Just before the hyperfusion equation was about to be completed, the phone rang at an inappropriate time. Makoto Takahashi frowned a little and planned to ignore it and continue writing, but when his cell phone kept ringing, Makoto Takahashi sighed helplessly, put down the brush and picked up the phone. "This is an intelligent artificial message. If you are eager for help from Master Jujhen of the Phoenix Institute, please be fair first. Based on the principle of equal exchange, Master Jujhen of the Phoenix Institute will provide you as a common citizen with corresponding help." Without even looking at the caller ID, after Makoto Takahashi took the call, he immediately started bombing in the second style. The person on the other side of the phone seemed to be frightened by Makoto Takahashi and didn't speak for a long time. "Makoto-kun, I..." Just when Takahashi Makoto thought the call had been hung up, Rina's voice suddenly came out. "As usual, Aiken Mumenjai, 2 good friends, are working hard. Due to the influence of the East, Mr. Huang Mao and Glasses couldn't come up with a good plot for a long time. As a result, the ranking of PCP has been declining recently, making Lan Dai's classmate resentful. However, during this period, with the recovery of Mr. Huang Mao and Glasses, PCP began to reverse the unfavorable situation bit by bit. It not only stabilized the ranking, but also began to fight back, entering the mode bit by bit, heading towards the previous. The comic in front launched a brutal attack. "Hey, Chi-Ren, the story of this chapter is really unfolding unexpectedly." Lan Dai finished the comic draft, with a look of anticipation on his face. "If this continues, we should be able to..." "Nanny. A witch can't lie. You, Say it again. Before Landai could finish his words, he heard Takahashi Makoto's shocked cry from next door. The two people, who were full of curiosity, immediately fell silent after looking at each other. They pricked their ears and tried to eavesdrop on the conversation on Takahashi Makoto's side. However, there was no sound coming from Takahashi Makoto's side, which made the gossip spirit the two burning people looked confused. What happened over there? Chang, Landai, leaning against the wall, made this gesture to his good friend and asked curiously. Speaking of witches, it probably has something to do with Rina, right? The man with yellow-haired glasses shook his head, saying that he didn't know either. But after a moment, a very obscene smile appeared on his face. Hey, the highest, do you think that once Chang enters the soul, he will be upgraded too? Kairan, what are you thinking about? Landai's eyes kept activating the dead fish eyes, looking at his good friend with a look of you are evil. How can such a thing be possible? Yesterday I was a little willful and I'm really sorry. Things at home and things about this book made a certain cat very irritable, so irritable that he could not write a book quietly. As for what happened, I won't talk about it. The past is in the past. There is one thing I want to say here. Dear readers, I would like to ask you about updating the number of words and chapters. Is it better to have one update a day with a word count of more than 3,000 plus, or 2 updates a day with a word count of more than 2,000 plus? I will leave a post like this in the book review area later. I hope everyone will read it and give a reply, because it will be easier for a certain cat to adjust in the future. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 218. The reason why Makoto Takahashi was so shocked was actually just as Mr. Huang Mao Glasses had guessed, triggering, well, it should be the completion of the magical mission of one shot into the soul. Although judging from the process, awakening soul must have more than one shot, but as Takahashi Makoto said before, the combat power is as high as several million, and this value is not deceiving. Rina hasn't been in very good spirits lately and is rather sleepy. At first, Ogata Slime didn't pay too much attention to this behavior. After all, as a star, he has to run around to make announcements and rush to shows. The pace of life is quite tight. In addition, in order to prepare for Rina is even more busy at the next concert. Although he felt sorry for his sister's busy life, Ogata didn't say anything. Whatever path a person chooses, he must bear the corresponding consequences. Because he chose it himself, everything that happens must be borne by himself. But one day, Ogata Slime, who was eating with Rina, saw his sister suddenly running into the toilet with her mouth covered, accompanied by the faint sound of vomiting. Ogata Slime instantly understood what was going on, and his expression changed. He pinched the chopsticks in his hand gloomily into 2 pieces. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Afterwards, regardless of Rina's shyness and objections, Ogata Slime forcibly took his sister to the hospital for examination, and then, as a result, if Rina hadn't stopped her, Ogata Slime would have definitely rushed to Takahashi Makoto's house, and met someone. This middle-class bastard is working hard. Although in terms of force, an Ogata Slime is no match for Takahashi Makoto, but for a self-destructing slime that is ready to die together, the outcome is hard to say. Does that bastard already know about this matter? Ogata Slime snorted coldly. In just a few days, he directly evolved from the slime elite leader to the level of the Great Demon King, exuding coldness all over his body. Although the tone of the Earth's breath was questioning, looking at the look of his sister's AI, Ogata Slime had confirmed that Takahashi Makoto already knew about this. Well, Chang-kun is surprised, recalling Makoto Takahashi's stammering tone during the previous call. Rina had a faint smile on her face and stroked her belly through her clothes, but now, Makoto-kun, every day I have to call at least 3 times, after all, we are quite busy at work. It's just a matter of calling a few more times a day. Looking at his sister's satisfied look, Ogata Slime sighed helplessly. Takahashi Makoto's hatred level instantly rose to a new level. That bastard is actually like this. Rina should indeed be treated humanely and destroyed. Since this is the case, then the concert should be postponed. Rubbing his temples, Ogata Slime closed his eyes with a headache. After thinking about it for a long time, he frowned and said to his sister helplessly, "Announcement, stop it all too." Eh? But brother. Seeing Ogata Ag making such a decision with a serious face, Rina suddenly felt a little guilty. The announcement was better, but that concert, Rina knew clearly that it was my brother was busy running around here and there and spent a lot of effort preparing it. There is nothing good about it. Ogata Ag stopped Rina from speaking, with a hint of tenderness on his face, and gently rubbed Rina's head, "Although this kind of emergency has disrupted the plans I have prepared for you. Arrangement, but after all, you are my sister, and it is an emergency, humph. It is an emergency, and your health is important. Anyway, this is all the fault of that bastard. When the time comes, we can settle the old grudges with him." "Thank you, brother." Rina had an expression on her face regarding her brother's performance. "Is this the tsundere that Chankun said?" Of course, Rina wouldn't say it out loud like this. If he really said it, maybe Ogata Slime, who had finally exited the black mode, would directly enter a state of frenzy and desperately look for Takahashi Makoto. "By the way, let me handle the rest." Ogata Ag originally had many questions he wanted to ask, but seeing his sister's tired face, Ogata Ag knew it was time to leave. Before leaving, he specially told Rina seriously, "And you just need to have a good rest. Well, by the way, I told that bastard boy that this matter must be kept secret and must not be known to anyone, especially the media reporters." Ogata Ag had already discussed this matter with Takahashi Makoto before, but the incident of one shot entering the soul had not occurred at that time, so the scope of the conversation did not involve this level, but now this kind of thing suddenly appeared, because he was worried about someone who was too middle-aged. Ag Ogata felt that it was still necessary and emphasized it again with Makoto Takahashi. Brother is really. Regarding her brother's distrust of Makoto Takahashi, Rina curled her lips somewhat unhappily, but looking at the serious look on Ogata Slime's face, Rina had no choice but to agree, "I know. But I believe that Mr. Chen will not show it around." There was some discrepancy between the facts and Rina's thoughts. At Makoto Takahashi's house, everyone on the assistant side looked at Makoto Takahashi, who kept muttering in a low voice, and they all felt a little strange. "It's a bit unscientific. I originally thought that, like Mr. Xiang, as a time traveler, it would be as difficult to activate the creator mode as to change the world line. I didn't expect it to be so easy." Takahashi Makoto kept drawing comics while painting, muttering, "Is this the difference between soul travel and body travel? Could it be that the door I saw at that time was the legendary door of truth? It's not scientific at all. By the way, Zayakoi, do you know what happened to Ah Cheng recently?" Ding Ding stopped painting with a black line on his face, looked at Takahashi Makoto, who was still mumbling, and scratched his head helplessly. "Why is Ah Cheng like this recently?" "I don't know," Weno Aoi complained unhappily in response to Ding Ding's question with a roll of his eyes. "By the way, Uncle Ding, do you still have the energy to take care of this when you are so busy? Recently, there are more places in Xiaokeng's comic manuscripts that need to be revised. Errors that rarely appeared before are now appearing frequently. Should I ask Mr. Yoshida?" Mayuri thinks Mr. Yoshida should know something. Mayuri he also stopped painting and joined the conversation. "Although I don't know what Mr. Feng Guangaiyuan is thinking about recently, I can see that the teacher is in a good mood. This is the comic draft." You continue, "I need to contact the people in the association." Takahashi Makoto completely ignored the discussion of the assistants, threw the completed comic draft on the table, took his mobile phone and walked to the balcony, knocking his head as he walked. Professional issues really need specialized people to explain. Have you noticed that Aiken seems to call frequently recently, when Oaoi stared at someone's back with a gossipy smile on her face? Sure enough, he called Rina-chan, right? No, Jinghe River wiped the water droplets on his hands and extinguished when Oaoi's gossipy heart. Just when I came out of the bathroom, I heard Aiken call the other party professor. It should be a teacher at school, right? Today's experiment, 2 more chapters of 2000 plus. Yesterday, I had a drink with my good friend and talked about Taoism, which had already surpassed the middle school model. With the deepening of a certain cat's perception, I almost ascended. Just thinking that the novel is not finished yet, so a cat has biu and flies back. There will be another update later, and the situation is basically like this. After finishing this book, a cat will practice and attain enlightenment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 219. Although Takahashi Makoto and Rina have been on the phone more frequently recently, as Shizukawa said, the person Takahashi Makoto called this time was not Rina, but Professor Yukawa Manabu of Taito University. The call took a whole afternoon. The content of the call is naturally about whether the time traveler can complete the task of entering the soul with one shot. Makoto Takahashi first persuaded Professor Yukawa to accept time travel, a phenomenon that cannot be proven by science at this stage. After an hour and a half, he still could not convince the other party. Instead, it aroused Professor Yukawa's curiosity and required Makoto Takahashi to come up with time travel. The user's instance can be used to perform comprehensive inspection or entity analysis. Human anatomy is indeed the favorite of scientists. Whether it's an evil scientist or a scientist who seems to be a weirdo. So Takahashi Makoto changed his strategy and led the topic to change in another direction. As a result, when talking about the key issue, Professor Yukawa said that he was just a physicist, and regarding the matter of one shot into the soul, you should go to a biologist or doctor. So I spent an entire afternoon, but Makoto Takahashi got nothing. The sudden phone call woke up Takahashi Makoto, who was still addicted to the entanglement. Looking at the phone number displayed on the phone, and then looking at the time displayed, Takahashi Makoto gave himself a hard slap on the head. Because I was too obsessed with the issue of the coexistence of time travelers and one-shot souls, I forgot the time I agreed with Rina. Chankun? I'm sorry to bother you, Rina's faint complaining voice came from the phone, because Chankun hasn't called, so Rina, I'm very busy at work today. Humph. Which, you really underestimate the murderous nature of our Phoenix Academy. It's just a production of a hypnosis magic book, and you can complete hundreds of pages in one day. Let's not talk about it for now. Ogata Slime already knows. Is this the case? Makoto Takahashi asked Rina in confusion. According to the personality of that slime, after something like this happened, he would first imprison you, and then launch a desperate attack on me without overestimating his power. Hit. He. Brother already knows, but he didn't imprison me like Chankun said. When Rina said this, she felt a little surprised. Not only that, brother also announced my recent announcement. Everything has been cancelled, and even the concert that had been planned for a long time was postponed. Humph. Has that humanoid slime finally begun to learn human emotions in all these years of following the witch? It's really rare. Makoto Takahashi was also surprised by Ogata Eiji's behavior this time. When Rina was sick again, Ogata Eiji insisted on forcing Rina to participate in a variety show, which later caused Rina's condition to worsen. Later, if Rina hadn't stopped him in time, Takahashi Makoto might have chopped Ogata Eiji into a rage. Well, Chankun, I have something to discuss with you. Rina's hesitant tone made Takahashi Chang frown. Before Takahashi Chang could say anything, Rina seemed to have made up her mind. He took a breath and started talking, about that concert. Reject, Makoto Takahashi interrupted Rina without even hearing the words. I know what you are thinking. Are you thinking that because of your own fault, Slime worked in vain and felt guilty, so you want to insist on completing the concert? After being told what was on her mind, Rina fell into silence. After a long time, she still reluctantly asked quietly, Makoto-kun, is it really not possible? Of course not. You are now. Just when Takahashi-chen wanted to continue speaking, the doorbell rang eagerly. Although Takahashi-chen didn't want to pay attention to it, the people outside the door did not give up, over and over again. Ringing the doorbell. In desperation, Takahashi Makoto could only quickly comfort Rina and hung up the phone. When he opened the door and saw Ogata Eiji's gloomy face, Takahashi Makoto had a completely subconscious reaction and slammed the door hard to keep Ogata's slime out. Then the doorbell rang again anxiously. At the same time, there were violent knocks on the door and the sound of someone roaring angrily. I thought you would change. It seems I was too naive before. Lying on the sofa, Ogata Eiji rubbed his nose, his tone full of anger. The reason why he made such a strange posture was that when Takahashi Makoto closed the door, he used too much force. Ogata Eiji's nose was hit hard and he entered a state of continuous blood loss. Bang! It didn't feel good before and there was no critical hit, otherwise I wouldn't have to be complained by slimes now. Makoto Takahashi sat on the sofa opposite Ogata Eiji and complained with regret on his face, but it's really not like that, come to think of it, slime, your blood is actually red. Let's not talk about the color of the blood of strange creatures like slimes. I always thought that your blood, like your heart, should be black. Right? This is unscientific. Because he was in a state of continuous blood loss, Ogata Eiji did not attack Takahashi Makoto, but the angry expression on his face and the look that could kill people still made Takahashi Makoto decisively stop taunting. After all, as a crazy cartoonist, a slime with residual blood self-destruct and exchanged one life for another. The result is quite tragic. I'm here to tell you something. As soon as Ogata Eiji spoke, Takahashi Makoto frowned a little, and he was most unhappy with this condescending tone. Although he roughly guessed what the other party wanted to say, Takahashi Makoto unexpectedly did not interrupt Ogata Eiji this time. The situation is roughly like this. If there are no problems, I will leave first. Ogata Eiji proposed that a new person signed by the agency should complete the concert in Rina's place, and the replacement would be the little girl who appeared next to Rina before. There is not much doubt about Makoto Takahashi. Even if Ogata Eiji asked Makoto Takahashi to write a few songs, Makoto Takahashi did not refuse. But wait a minute, this is different from what I said before. Makoto Takahashi stared at Ogata Eiji with a gloomy face. The concert will be completed by that little bastard instead of the witch. This kind of thing doesn't matter, but why? I want the witch to appear. Ogata Slime, if you don't know clearly today, I can guarantee that you won't have a chance to get out of my barrier. I'm just going on stage to sing a song as a guest. Because Rina and Morikawa Yuki are not only good friends, but also a relationship between seniors and juniors. Eiji Ogata looked at Makoto Takahashi and spread his hands helplessly. Okay. Well, although I don't want this to happen, this is Rina's initiative. If you don't want this to happen, then find a way to convince Rina. For this matter, I support you this time. Was the previous phone call really the first test? But trying to convince Rina, Takahashi Makoto said this is an impossible task. Although Rina is a soft girl known as a witch, it is basically difficult to interfere with her determination, even if this person is Takahashi Makoto. Hey! You are such a drag on your teammates, do you still want to join my side? Makoto Takahashi looked at Ogata Eiji angrily. I was tricked by you before we even formed a team. Who would need you, slime, for selling teammates? A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Email. Chapter 220. Although Ogata Slime came specifically to ask for help this time, Takahashi Makoto did not agree. It's not that you can make things difficult, it's because you really can't. Wanting to persuade Rina to give up her identity as a guest and give the little face a halo assist. For Makoto Takahashi, the difficulty of this task is as difficult as the novice's installation of the Hell level Dark 3. It is a road to death. Because Rina's inner tenacity and tenacity towards a given matter are super god level existences. Therefore, Takahashi Makoto's persuasion was completely powerless, but Rina used various wife-specific skills, such as being cute, acting coquettishly, etc., and defeated her. This is basically the situation. The reason why a witch is called a witch is because she has done things that ordinary women cannot do, so she is called a witch. Regarding the mission issued by Ogata Slime, Makoto Takahashi said that the player level is not enough and the ability is not enough, so he can only die in the middle. Not only did Takahashi choose to ignore Ogata Slime, who was deeply resentful on the phone, but he also completely blamed the failure of the mission on the other party. In the final analysis, the person who was wrong was not me or the witch. There is no doubt that the wrong person is you, Ogata Slime. Am I the one who made the mistake? Ogata Slime was angry. Isn't it good that you are the useless person? Speaking of which, who is the person who caused all this? Now I just give you a chance to make up for it, but as a result you not only you messed up, and you taught me a lesson. Am I the useless one? Tisk tisk tisk, Ogata Slime, if you have the ability, go out and look for similar creatures that can reproduce the next generation, and then go home and cast one shot into the soul to show me. But I remember that the slime population seems to reproduce asexually through hermaphrodites, so it is impossible for you to complete the task of entering the soul with one shot, so the really useless person is you. Makoto Takahashi also said. He wanted to continue using his spiritual magic attack, but Ogata Slime, who was extremely resentful over there, hung up the phone unceremoniously. Hey! The speed of escaping at this time is quite fast. Putting down the phone in his hand, Takahashi Makoto looked at his trembling hands with some doubts, and murmured in a low voice, but it seems a bit strange, why does my blood start to boil and I feel a little depressed after hearing this news from Ogata Slime? I always feel a sense of foreboding. The reason why Takahashi Makoto chose to accept this task was because Ogata Slime expressed his intention at that time, especially after hearing that Rina wanted to perform on stage. He suddenly felt uneasy in his heart. Although he didn't know what would happen in the future, this inexplicable palpitation still made Takahashi Makoto a little concerned. As an intuitive, Takahashi Makoto believed in his own intuition. The ominous premonition, Chankun is real. I will be careful. But in the future, as the father of my child, Chankun, you won't be able to do this. Rina didn't listen at all to Takahashi Makoto's blunt and unflattering advice. Go in, because someone's words and deeds that often appear to be persecuted and delusional have made people around him resistant, especially Rina, who is extremely close to Takahashi Makoto. Okay, Makoto-kun, I'm going to practice with Yuki-chan, let's wait until we meet. I'll give you a surprise then. Hey. Listening to the busy tone from the other side of the phone, Makoto Takahashi's heart became even more confused, especially Rina's last words, which sounded like she was raising a flag. Hey. That stupid witch. It's time like this. By the way, how many times has this kind of persuasion been done before? Every time I talk about this, Rina uses rehearsal as an excuse to change the subject. Makoto Takahashi, who has always made others feel powerless, feels infinite powerlessness from Rina this time. As the date of the scheduled performance approached, Takahashi Makoto began to become irritable, but Rina's unexpected stubbornness at this time made Takahashi helpless. Even if Takahashi Makoto personally came to the door to carry out the persuasion mission, he still could not shake Rina's determination. Looking at Rina's firm look, Takahashi Makoto completely lost the chance of winning in this collision of wills. Listen up, Sabas-chan, your next mission will be to accompany the witch throughout the whole process. Since you are a devil-like housekeeper, then resume your duties and guard the witch. Since you can't persuade Rina if you change your mind, you need to take precautions before they happen, and Sebastian, who is known as the all-powerful butler, is naturally the best candidate. This is an order, do you understand? Yes, master. Sebastian's tone was as calm as ever, making Takahashi Makoto, who was originally relieved, feel uneasy again. As for Makoto Takahashi entering the anxious mode, the assistants were a little confused at first. However, looking at the frequent mistakes in the comic manuscripts, several assistants mustered up the courage to ask Makoto Takahashi the whole story in detail. Of course, according to in the previous agreement with Ogata Slime, Takahashi Makoto deliberately concealed the incident of one shot entering the soul. Cheng, are you thinking too much? Do you think you are the protagonist in novels and comics, and if you feel an ominous premonition, something will happen? After hearing this, Ding Ding was speechless, shaking his head and sighing. Speaking of Cheng, haven't you had a good rest recently? You've started to hallucinate. Haha, an ominous premonition, how can such a thing be possible? Hey, Xiao Cheng, why don't you take a break for a while? Anyway, there are still a lot of comic manuscripts, so it shouldn't be a problem if you don't draw for a month. Ueno Aoi didn't say anything about Takahashi Makoto's concerns, but persuaded Takahashi Makoto from a different angle. Although I think you think too much, but since you are so worried about Rina-chan, then when the time comes, you should stay by her side all the time. Of course. When I met Rina before, I gave her the curse seal of Gohan Kima's servant. Takahashi Makoto naturally considered Ueno Aoi's suggestion, but even so, Takahashi Makoto still felt it was not safe. At that time, my Phoenix Court Kyoma will appear as a swordsman, carrying the treasure, the magic sword-shattering star, and slaying all those with ill intentions. This is the choice of Stein's Gate. The assistants looked at Takahashi Makoto with dark lines on their faces. With the magic sword, hey, don't joke, it was okay to bring a wooden sword before, but with a real sword, a treasure with lethality, with that kind of thing, Takahashi Makoto, do you think you still have a chance to enter the concert? I don't know if it's my illusion. When Aiken said it before, I didn't think so, but now. Ding Ding swallowed hard after watching Takahashi Makoto enter the room. After hearing Aiken's plan, I really have a bad feeling. I feel the same, the assistants nodded in unison, and brushed the synchronization rate palely with lingering fear. Sorry, a cat was unwell yesterday, and brushed the hospital dungeon alone. I resumed updating today. I forgot to upload it before, so I'll upload 2 chapters together.